Alright, I will be presenting on dissociative amnesia. My name is Matt Aida. That's M-A-T-T, last name A-I-T-A. My client's name is Gary Pearson. That's G-A-R-Y. Pearson is P-E-A-R-S-O-N. Gary is 20 years old. We had two differential diagnoses. Both fairly similar to each other, with dissociative amnesia and dissociative amnesia with dissociative fugue. We ended up rolling out the latter because he didn't end up going on a long journey where he lost unconsciousness. So that journey never took place. So we ruled that out and then ruled in dissociative amnesia. There are two diagnostic criterion for dissociative amnesia. The first one, disruption in memory of personal information, usually of a traumatic or stressful nature. One more time. Disruption in memory of personal information, usually of a traumatic or stressful nature. And the second one is often accompanied by a traumatic or stressful event. Often accompanied by a traumatic or stressful story of Gary. So, like I said earlier, Gary is 20 years old. He's a college student from Florida, and him and his friends, during spring break, they decided to go deep sea fishing. So, spring break, getting a little crazy. They'd never gone deep sea fishing before. It turns out that Gary was found 12 hours later floating in the middle of the ocean by himself. All his friends were dead, or presumed dead. So he was brought into the emergency room after he was found, exhausted, dehydrated, and had really bad, severe sunburns. He was able to, he knew what day it was and the date. He remembers leaving the dock that morning with his friends, but he really can't recall anything after that event. At first, he had to be reminded that he was, in fact, in the hospital, and he was really uncertain of his whereabouts for quite a while. And he seemed really surprised that he was in the hospital in the first place. But once he was rehydrated and had some rest, the confusion about his whereabouts kind of disappeared. There was found to be no evidence of head injury, so he was allowed to sleep for about 6 hours. Once he woke up, he was more attentive and able to recall events, but really no idea, of the actual event that took place. So he's able to remember things about himself, that he's a student, and he maintained an A grade average and had a small group of friends, but no real memory of the incident. It says at the end that he denies any previous psychiatric history. It says that he's never abused drugs or alcohol. So yeah, that's really about all they say about it. Crazy spring break leads to a bunch of deaths and amnesia. So as far as the multi-axial, the first axis, we have dissociative amnesia. The second, we have none. The third axis, we have dehydration. That's dehydration and excessive sun exposure. The fourth axis, we have, he's the only survivor of a recent boating accident. One more time. He's the only survivor of a recent boating accident. And a GF, we gave him a score of 75. To finish up, we have the theoretical perspective. We chose two of them. There were two. The psychodynamic perspective, which was his amnesia occurs as a defense mechanism of repression, even though he is unconscious of the trauma. This is a coping mechanism in order to repress the trauma and any anxiety. One more time. His amnesia occurs as a defense mechanism of repression, even though he is unconscious at time of the trauma. This is a coping mechanism in order to repress the trauma and anxiety. The second one we chose was the behavioral perspective, and that is his symptoms come from a learned behavior that is operantly conditioned, that of which is avoidance behavior. Even though his memory loss occurs unconsciously, the behavior is still a voluntary behavior. He learns that by not remembering the event and avoiding possible anxiety. This enables him to black out the moment. He is therefore positively reinforced. One more time. His symptoms come from a learned behavior that is operantly conditioned, that of which is an avoidance behavior. Even though his memory loss occurs unconsciously, that behavior is still a voluntary behavior. He learns that by not remembering the event, that he is able to avoid any possible anxiety, which enables him to black out the moment. Therefore, he is positively reinforced. All right, thank you very much.